You had all that extra time last night with no school activities, no music, no sports, no nothing. So it is very likely that we could hand in, and we are looking to hand in 403 and this worksheet. And I know the answers are given to you, but so looking at those, Addison.
Oh, I actually do have a question.
Okay.
12.
12. I know, and I thought they weren't going to be due either because I thought, it's a busy night, all kinds of stuff going on, and then everything was canceled. So whew, it's like I couldn't believe they did that for me. What? Oh, how long? How many hours?
It was like an hour and a half all night, but I had to get ready, I had to shower. Then I had to play history notes. So.
Question 12. It is not as simple as the ones in our notes, right? Because we know that, like if we look at this shaded line, so if I do this one if I look at this line right here, this line has the points -4, 2, and 2, -1. Those are my 2 points on that first line, right? And if I'm looking at those 2 points, I can tell already that the y-intercept is somewhere between 0 and -1, but I cannot tell exactly. So if I am looking to write the equation for this blue line, I'm going to start with finding the slope. So this takes us back to the last unit. Reviewing for your final is kind of good. How do we find the slope? We subtract y's over x's. So in number 12, if you haven't done it, kind of do this one with it. So number 12, I'm going to take my 2 y coordinates, which are at -1, 2. So if I go -1 minus 2, then in my denominator, I have to put 2 minus a -4, correct? If I'm subtracting that, I'm going to have a -3 over 6, which does give me a -1/2 slope. So far for this line, it looks like if we are shading that, it looks like, because this is our intersection area, it looks like my equation should be something like y is less than -1/2 x, sounds like a decent slope. I just have to find the y-intercept. So, if I know these 2 points in the green, how can I find the y-intercept? 2 options, point slope or slope intercept point. Yeah.
Use 2 points from 2 lines.
You did?
Yeah.
This is 2, -1.
Yeah.
Oh, and -4, 1. Oh, good eye. Should be this one. So, let's check it. I did -1, it should be -1. Thank you. And 2 still minus -4. Okay. So I am going to have a -2 over 6 and a -1/3. Thank you. -1/3 x. Which form do you want to use? Point slope or slope intercept? And you find the
Point slope.
point slope. So we're going to go with y minus. Which point do you want to use?
2, -1.
2, -1. So if we're using the 2, -1, so I'm going to have y plus 1, right? Well, a -1/3. I already knew my slope because I almost have this equation written. -1/3 x, and then I'm going to have -2, right? Because we use this point. I need to get y by itself to get it in slope intercept, and I'm going to use the distributive property here. So I have y plus 1 equals -1/3 x plus 2/3. I'm subtracting 1, and my new equation is y equals -1/3 x minus 1/3, right? This -1, that's really a -3 over 3. So -3 plus 2/3 gives me a -1/3. So the equation for this line, was everything below this line. So y is less, it was dashed, then negative 1/3 x minus 1/3. You're going to do the same thing using this time the other 2 points that I messed up on first. You're going to use these 2 points now and write your equation. And so if you are writing an equation with those 2 points in the pink, first thing, find your slope. Y minus y over x minus x. Then you're going to y equals mx plus b, or if you like point slope form, you would use this form. This is great review because all this kind of stuff on your final, it's everything, right? Our final is going back, covering everything we've covered so far this year, okay? So anytime some of these come up and they might be a little harder, that's kind of what we're looking at. I want you to turn in your notes right now to that last page. When is our test? How many questions? What's on it? So, if I am looking at your test is Friday. So we can put down 12/9. A couple of you already talked to me that you're going to be gone Friday partway through the day, which means you're coming in to do it Friday morning. That'd be great. There are 8 questions, 50 points. 8 questions. So let's look at what the questions are on. Most of them are 6 or 7 points a question. The first one that you're going to see, the first 4 questions, worth 6 points each. Okay? So this is the number of questions, and this is how well do you know it. Okay? I don't know how well you know it yet. That's how you got to figure out how well do you know. So the first standard, I can model. I bet you can. Real world problems. So we're going to make sure it's just the real world problems, not just modeling. Real world problems by writing systems of linear equations and inequality. So you might have to write your 2, like from a story problem, write your linear equation, or it might be linear inequalities. If it's linear equations, you're going to have 2 equations, okay? I believe on the test, the linear inequalities from the story problem, it has 3. It's like the ones in the textbook that we did on 403, where you have 3 different equations, right? Where you have to shade like above. I would think of the ones I would say is if you go back to that perimeter problem, right? So you had the perimeter and it had to be bigger than this and less than this, but looking at those kind of questions, okay? So what's going to happen is on the test is the first page has 4 questions on it, all story problems. I will ask you write the equation. You get the equations, you raise your hand. I'm going to come and just put a yes or a no, check it right or wrong, because on the back you'll turn it over and you will use 3 of the questions on the front to actually solve it on the back, okay? So there's 8 questions, like I said. The next standard, if we are looking at your next standard down, I don't know if that took 1 block of yours or 2, but the next standard is that I can solve the system, okay? So I can solve the system of linear equality of, I could solve the system, and I'm just going to say algebraically. We already tested that you could solve it by graphing, algebraically. What do I mean algebraically? Substitution or elimination. And you have seen that sometimes when you write out the story problem, it's perfect for substitution because they tell you these 2 things are going to be equal, and when do you find it? Other times, like the current problems or going with the wind and against the wind, those are perfect for elimination, okay? So there are 2 questions that you have to solve. Each one is 6 points. Each one is 6 points each. Okay? So these are 2 of the story problems you've just written up here. You wrote it for, and then you turn it over to the back, and I'll say, solve question number 1 or solve question number 2 that you did on the front. Okay? So you'll use the 2 equations that you had in the front. So that's why it's important that before you do the back, we have the 2 right equations. And then the last one is that I can solve a system, a linear system of inequalities graphically. So solve the linear inequalities. So up here you were just writing them. Now you have to solve it like we did in D7. Solve the linear inequalities by graphing. So when we are solving that by graphing, there are 2 of them. One, they're worth 7 points each. One is a story problem, the real world. Okay, so one is our story problem. The other one is, if I was looking at today's worksheet, it's kind of like those first few problems, okay? So where you have, where I just give you the equations, okay? And say, graph it. And I say something like, y is less than this, and 2x minus 3y is greater or equal to something like that. So I give you 2 equations, and I say graph. Okay, so I'm looking for, is there a solution? Do they overlap? What is it? You shade it really dark. If there'd be no overlap, then I would just be looking at you telling me that there was no solution because the 2 did not overlap at all. Okay, so this is pretty much what the test is. Some of you, if you have been going back over all those papers I've been handing back, and each time you look at it and you're like, okay, yeah, this is making sense and I know how to write this. I would say especially from 5, 6, and 7, all those story problems that we've been doing. And if you can go back and you can just like look at it and practice writing it and cover up and do those and do it again and go back to the notes, that's what you're going to see on the test. There is nothing you haven't seen. The question you will see on the test, the 4 questions that are the story problems, you've seen them. They're ones you've probably actually done, either in the review packet, on your homework already. It's something that you've done. It's not going to be anything new. So it's just a matter of you making sure that as we are looking at these, that you know how to write those real world problems. Because if you sit on the test for 20 minutes or more on Friday and you're looking at those and you just can't come up with anything, you're not going to finish the test. If you can't figure out how to write it, you can't do the back part. So my main thing for studying tomorrow, you're going to be getting, tomorrow in class,